This is block 3 of the block of the month. And I'm Kathy with You Can Quilt Too. This is the block that we will be doing today. I've got it already printed out onto our paper piecing paper. Remember, if you go to the Google Docs and you want to print this off, make sure you put it in mirrored image, so then that way it will be reverse of what the colored one is compared to what it's on paper piecing, because we will be actually doing our piecing on the back of it. Okay, let's get started. It comes in on one sheet. There's 2 sections. There's an A and a B. So I went ahead and cut the B off. We're going to put that aside, and we will do that one as soon as we get done with the A. A1 is going to be the yellow, and when you do this, this yellow is a little hard to tell which side is the right side or wrong side. I can tell because I've got the salvage still on this one. But what you're going to do is you're going to lay the fabric side down and the backing up. And what you want to do is just make sure that you have a 1/4 inch on all sides. And if you could sort of see, I've got a 1/4 inch all the way around it. Okay, then you take your black strip, and this is the line that you're going to be sewing on first. So we lift that up. We take our black piece. I usually try to just lay it down here. And I tried to just eyeball it to make sure I've got it all caught into the thread. Into the line. Okay. Then we go ahead and sew it. Okay, let's see how this works. And you'll get real good practice on sewing a straight line with this one. Okay? And what you need to do is you need to fold it backwards. And we're going to cut a 1/4 inch seam. Let me just remove some of this excess here. So I'm going to get my ruler and see what I did with my ruler. Put it way over here. Okay, and we're going to take our ruler and we're just going to look at this, and we're going to measure a 1/4 inch all the way down and trim it. Okay, then we take it over to the iron, and we're going to set the seams, and then we're going to open it up. Make sure you don't use steam on this, because we are using paper, so you don't want any type of steam. Okay, there you got 2 pieces added on already. Okay, now we're going to add our red to this, A3. And if you flip it over, and you notice you lay the fabric facing down on here, because what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over. And what I do is just make sure I have enough covered. There, so then flip it back over just to make sure that you're at this line. We may want to bring this up just a little bit because we've got quite a bit there. And we're good there. Okay. Rulers. And come to the sewing machine. And one thing I forgot to mention on the first one is always set your needle, your stitch length to about 1.50. That's what I usually set it at. And then we just sew a straight line. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold it on that stitch line. We're going to get our ruler. We're going to measure a 1/4 inch. And then we're going to cut that off. Okay, take it to the iron. And we're going to set our seams. Okay, and then open it up. And lay it flat. There we go. Okay. I'm going to open it up. Now we're going to add A4, which is on the side. So actually, this extra that I cut off from the red, I can use it right here. So what I do is I'll line it up, making sure that it's catching onto this line, because we'll be folding it over. So I've got it on that line. I go a little bit over, so I'm good there. I can look on the back. Sew down it. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold this back to our paper. And I'm just going to trim that black off so that way there's not so much bulk there. Okay, and we're going to go to our 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to trim that off. Okay, go back to our iron, set it, open it up. Okay, now we are to our blue. Flip it over so you can see where you're at. We're right here on the blue, A5. So we're going to lay the fabric facing us. Lay it here. Let's make sure I've got this right. So let's flip it over. And if I flip it over right, it is correct. Sometimes you have to think about how you lay your fabric down. It gets a little confusing after a while. Sometimes you can just automatically do it, and then other times you just have to sit and think. Okay, how do I lay the fabric down? Just remember, it's always facing you except for the very first one. The first one is always laid flat down with the wrong side facing you. Okay, there we are. We're going to do the same thing as we've been doing. Fold it back. Get our 1/4 of an inch. Which I need to turn this just a little bit so I can cut this correctly. Okay. I'm just going to trim that off too while I'm at it. Okay. Take it to the iron. Set our seams. Open it up. Okay. Now we have one section left, and that's A6. So we'll get another black strip. And if you notice, I cut these strips about a little bit larger than the block, so I didn't have a huge long strip. Okay, so I will measure it, make sure that it's just covering that. So whenever I sew it, it doesn't have to be exact or anything, just so that you know that you're going to catch it when you're sewing it and that it covers the entire section after it's sewn. Go. Now, this one we really don't need to fold it. Let's just trim some of this bulk off. Okay, let's set our seam. Okay, now what we're going to do, because that looks pretty sloppy right now, we're going to actually trim it up So that way it looks really good. Okay, there's two lines here. There's a bold line, that's where we sewed on. Then there's like a little faint dotted line going around. That is your 1/4 inch all the way around your block. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut right on that line all the way around this block. Let's flip it over. Line it up. Got 2 more sides to go. There we go. One more side for this section of the block. There we go. Okay, now we got the first section done. Remember I said there's 2 sections. We have section B, which only has 3 colors. It has the purple, black, and the orange. So let's do the purple first. We're going to lay it the wrong side up. Lay our fabric down. Then we're going to take, because I've got a bunch of this little leftovers, scraps, this is a perfect section for that. You take your black, lay it down, make sure that it's covering, that you're going to be able to stitch on that. Let's bring it over, stitch this down. Okay, fold your paper over. Let's get our 1/4 inch here. Let's trim that off first. And get our 1/4 inch. There we go. We're going to set this seam and open it up. There you go. Now we're going to flip this open, and we're going to get our orange, and we're going to lay our orange facing up, our fabric facing up. Remember, our first one is always facing down, and then our second one, all the other ones will be facing up. So we just want to make sure we have that, and that, of course, that's going to cover the entire block. Let's sew that. Okay, so flip that back, cut our 1/4 inch. Okay, set our seam. You can tell I've used a lot of fabric here, which we didn't really need to, but I went ahead and just used what I had. And what I usually do is I'll take a little piece of glue. Well, there we are. And I'll just lay a little piece of glue right here just to hold this down so it doesn't move on me. Just right there in the middle, because we're going to rip it off anyway. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as we did with the big block. We're going to cut along those little bitty dotted lines all the way around the block. Go. Okay. 2 more sides, 1 more side, and then we will put these 2 sections together. Okay, now we're going to take the A section and the B section, and we're going to sew them together. What's nice about paper piecing is that when you lay them down, both sides is going to be 1/4 of an inch. So when you sew it, you're going to sew right on that line. You could put a pin there if you want, but really you don't need to because they pretty much stay together pretty easy. So you're going to sew a straight line. Okay, there's no trimming on this one. So what I like to do is I like to open up my seams whenever I press these. That way there's not so much bulk, and I press it first with my finger to bring them open. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Then I'll take my iron and I'll press them down. And I try to leave the paper piecing in until I am ready to put it all together, so that way I can line up everything. The only place I usually try to take my paper out is right here in these seams, because I don't want all that bulk. So I just pull the paper off. And if you use the real narrow stitch length, it comes off pretty easy. At least this time it's coming off real easy for me. And then I do it on the other side, just to, so there's not so much bulk when you're got them sewn. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit trickier on me, and we'll get it. Okay, almost there. Okay, let's press this one more time without the paper in there. And then we'll flip it over. Give it one more good press. And there's your block. Block 3 of your block of the month. And I will be back in 2 weeks. I was going to try to do it every Thursday, but I think Saturday is going to be better, because I'm going to try to start doing little tutorial videos. This one was a little bit long. It was my first time ever doing one. So the videos hopefully will get better in time. So I hope you enjoy your block and keep quilting.